we're going to do our last quick take before lunch. I'm excited to introduce Rebekah Gouch. See? Yes? Okay. All right. Rebekah serves as the Director of Marketing Communications at the Banquet Network. Rebekah was blessed to grow up in a household with a brother who has special needs. She received her Bachelor of Science in Psychology from Liberty University, and she's passionate about equipping individuals with the knowledge and resources they need to best be the hands and feet of Christ. Please join me in welcoming Rebekah.
Thanks, guys. As we all know, I'm what is standing between you and lunch, so I promise to keep things moving. Do not fear. I am so excited to be able to kind of share with you guys and unpack what it means for the church to support the support system. Now, the support system can take on many different forms. That means a lot of different things, but today we're going to primarily focus in on the family unit. But before we do that, I want to dive quickly into who the Banquet Network is. That's who I'm here with. And so we coach churches to help them integrate disabilities into the life of the church. And so in doing this, that means, pursuing the individual, but also pursuing their support system, helping the church have the tools and resources they need to truly embrace what it means to integrate disabilities into the full body life of the church. And yes, we do get our name from the Luke 14:13 parable, which says, when you throw a banquet, invite everyone. Invite the lame, the crippled, the blind, invite everyone. And so that's what we want to do, and that's the heartbeat of who we are and why we're here today. So a little bit about me. I was, in fact, blessed to have an older brother with Down syndrome. I'm still blessed. He's amazing. And he's a large part of why I was so excited to get to talk about this specific topic today. Because in order for the church to best pursue the individual, they also need to support and pursue their support system. So as you can see, my brother has quite the large support system. And so when the church is welcoming him, they're welcoming all of us. And so that's why it's so important, because a lot of research and studies show just why people with disabilities end up leaving the church. And a lot of times it's attitude, it's the heart, it's because they feel unwelcomed. And so in order for the church to best welcome everyone, we pursue the individual and we pursue their people. So we're going to look at that in three primary ways today. We're going to look at what it looks like for the church to support and meet physical needs, emotional needs, and spiritual needs. Because a lot of us have heard you can't pour out of an empty cup. So let's make sure that we are filling the cups of those within our church. So there are so many different resources and things in place already. And so I would encourage you after this session today, during lunch, and throughout the rest of the conference, to go take time and talk to some of the other ministries and organizations here if you haven't already. Because a lot of them, they already have things in place for parents, grandparents, and sibling support. So we're going to kind of brainstorm together today. We're going to kind of begin to get our wheels turning. So I hope you walk away feeling inspired and equipped to begin thinking about, what does this mean for our church? Because some of the things that we might talk about, odds are you've already done some of these things for people. So what does it look like to begin implementing these and reaching the families of those impacted by disabilities? So things such as setting up meal trains. Odds are you've probably done that before and know someone who has a love for cooking and love for supporting people who have maybe walked through grief or maybe are welcoming a newborn into their lives. And so, okay, we know how to do that, so now let's implement that to the families of those impacted by disabilities. Maybe there are surgeries coming up. Maybe there are tests and doctor's appointments. Let's help come along and relieve some burdens. Let's do some burden lifting together. Training outside volunteers is also incredibly important to allow families to have some time to rest and to grow in their relationships with the Lord. Now, the siblings, the parents of those with disabilities, they are incredibly equipped with the knowledge and resources already to be a helping hand, but let's not rely on them. Let's utilize them, but let's make sure they are being taken care of. Let's make sure we are filling their cups by allowing them opportunities to truly rest. Other things such as transportation and childcare can aid in helping families feel like they are better a part of the church and to also help them feel as if they are supported. So, one of the most important things to meeting these needs is not just going ahead and, okay, let's establish all these 50 great ideas, but let's start by asking the people already in our church, hey, what are some needs? What can we do to best support you? Because it might be that setting up a meal train is not what your church needs to do. It could be that your church needs to aid in providing transportation. Oh no, we've lost the slides. That's okay.
So asking people and having an understanding of what is it that we can do as a church to best support those who are impacted by disabilities and their families. Well, we've lost the slides and my laptop doesn't want to turn back on. That's okay. Next, we're going to look at the emotional needs. And so meeting the emotional needs of those impacted by disabilities and their families is incredibly important. 1 Corinthians 12 talks about the fact that we are members of one body. We're all different members, but we're of one body. And Romans 12 talks about the fact that we rejoice with those who rejoice and we weep with those who weep. So as members of one body, we are to come alongside one another. We are to help uplift one another. And there's a vast multitude of different ways that we can do this. One of the most important in meeting both emotional needs and spiritual needs is establishing community groups and mentorship to practically help people right where they are. And so one of the best ways to do this is by taking maybe someone who's a few steps ahead and letting them come alongside and support. Oh, hi. Oh, that's fine, thank you. Sorry about the technical difficulties, you guys. But when it comes to mentorship and community groups, creating a space for people to feel pursued, for people to feel welcomed and like those who are a few steps ahead. Oh, yeah. We're back. That's wonderful. Thank you for your help. All right, here's some ways to meet the emotional needs. So we were talking a little bit about mentorship, community groups, that kind of thing to set in place. We'll talk about that a little bit more on the next slide. But when it comes to emotional needs, a great way to do this is to simply be a friend. Be someone who asks to listen, not ask to always fix problems. Be someone who's willing to come alongside the family and genuinely ask the right questions. Now, what's the right question? How are you? How can I help you? How can I pray for you? And then doing that again and again and again. Don't settle for the simple, oh, I'm fine, thank you. No. Continue to be persistent and insistent with getting to the heart of how someone is actually doing. I remember a time when I was young when someone asked me, Rebekah, how are you? And I was so accustomed to, oh, I'm doing great. Jonathan's surgery went well because it was a time when he was undergoing a lot of different surgeries for reasons. And she was like, no, I didn't ask you that. She said, I asked, how are you? And it genuinely stood out to me because there was only one other time I could think of when someone genuinely stopped me in my tracks to ask that question. Oftentimes, when it comes to also meeting the spiritual needs, identity can get lost behind the responsibility that comes with having a loved one who is impacted by disabilities. And so taking the time to encourage and remind them of who they are in Christ and remind them that they are more than just a caregiver, which they do know at head, but helping them know that at heart is what's incredibly important. And so I've had a couple different ideas up on the slides to help you kind of begin brainstorming. We've kind of talked through a couple of ideas. But the biggest thing at the heart of it all is to simply be someone who's willing to adapt and learn. There's no one-size-fits-all for disability ministry. There's no one-size-fits-all for coming along and supporting families. So that's why it's going to take intentionality. It's going to take pursuit. It's going to take time and time again showing up and being willing to help equip families with the love, the care, and the support that they need to truly feel like they are members of your church, to feel like they are members of the church body. Because at the end of the day, the last thing we want is for a family to walk away because they didn't feel supported or because their loved one was not welcomed. So in creating an environment that people are safe in and that people feel comfortable in, it's going to take time and time again being willing to think creatively, to do some creative problem solving. You learn of a need, okay, let's think of how we as the church can best meet that need. So we are quickly running out of time, but I did also want to remind you guys that the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. He's like a prowling lion, okay? What does the lion do? They isolate their prey. They isolate them to then target after them and to take them down. So we already know the enemy is like a lion. We know that the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. So we already know his tactics. Let's do something about it then. Let's not let families slip under the wraps. Let's not let them hide and slip in and out of church every week. But let's be aware of, okay, let's create a community. Let's create peer-to-peer support groups. Let's create mentorship. Let's allow for opportunities. And let's also continue asking, because odds are there could be grandparents within your church that you don't know have a grandkid impacted by disabilities. So let's support them in that way. And there are just so many other things and ways that we could begin doing this and to think through. So again, I encourage you, if you have the time to stop by our table, we can chat ideas, because there's so many ideas. I hope that this was just a time for you to kind of think about some ideas, begin thinking through some different ways you as a church can best love and support the families. But also there are so many different people here. Champions for Parents, Walk Right to Abilities, I believe, or ministries. There's a plethora. I've talked to so many people who have things in place to support families. So I encourage you, talk to them. I'd love to talk to you further. If you are interested in learning more and just connecting, I have our website, social media, my email, and I'd love to talk with you further. So thank you guys for bearing with me through the technical difficulties. I hope you